This September, one of the most nerve-wrackingly uncomfortable foreign films of 2022 is getting a remake, and hopefully this interview is a little less awkward than the interactions in that movie. No promises, though. Here to spread the good word about Speak No Evil, please welcome the stars of the film, James McAvoy and Mackenzie Davis, and writer-director James Watkins. Thank you guys for coming. This movie is a remake of a very well-received Danish film from a few years ago. I want to start by talking about what was most important to leave intact from that version in this version of the movie.
I think probably the theme of the movie, the core of the movie, of sort of the awkwardness of social interaction and how we negotiate it. I mean, obviously the key story of these two couples that meet on holiday and become holiday friends, and then where that leads. But really, all the conversations I had in writing and then with these guys was digging into the sort of dramedy of the awkwardness of how we negotiate everyday life.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the original, and I sort of made a pact with myself, just me and myself. It's like, let's us make a pact not to watch the original until we had finished. So really, it wasn't about taking it, for me anyway, it wasn't about taking anything from the original and making sure we held on to it. It was just about creating something from my own response to James's great script. And trusting that he had kept the kind of source key element that maybe makes it all hang together. I don't know, what were you?
I made a pact with James and himself.
Which I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
To also not see. Yeah, it was a secret sub-pact, and I also didn't see the movie. But yeah, I think I was aware of the themes that it was dealing in, and obviously it has a really famous ending. And I thought that just treating James's script as its own sort of text, it dealt with this incredible social awkwardness that was placed on the same level as like life and death, which I think it feels like that sometimes when you make sort of cultural missteps. And I loved that, like relating the two things.
It's kind of like people have a thing with remakes and call it remakes and remakes. And it's like when you do Shakespeare, you don't go, hey, I'm remaking Macbeth. You just go, I'm going to do Macbeth. You don't go, how did they do it before? Do we need to hold on to that? Do we need to get rid of it? You just go like, whatever, I'm doing my version. And it's the same with a remake as well, I think.
Great.
Well, knowing that you didn't necessarily want to watch the original before going into this one, did you bring any personal experience from bad vacations into this movie? To your performance? Maybe not as specific as the things that happened.
You killed that couple once.
Come on. It was a really stressful weekend. The kids were really getting on my nerves. No, I don't think so. I mean, I do quite often wear loud Hawaiian shirts when I'm on holiday and leave them open. And no matter how much pasta, pizza, and burgers I've eaten, I'm letting my belly go, which I do in this one. So other than that, no.
Yeah, I think I'm generally sort of uncomfortable when people talk to me, so I try to use that quite a bit.
Yeah. Let's continue the interview. I wanted, James, real quickly talk about your character, Paddy, who has a habit of sort of putting people on their back foot very, very easily. With that sort of unpredictability baked into your character, was there ever a time that you held something back that you were going to do in your performance from your castmates to get a more realistic reaction?
I've done this so many times in my career where I've thought I'm working with a younger person, I'm working with maybe a child, and they're meant to be frightened or whatever, and so I'll be off camera and it'll be their close up, and it's not like the character gives them a big fright or anything like that, but we want them to be frightened, and I'll go like boo or whatever, and honestly, invariably, I don't think ever in my career has it ever worked, and the kid just looks at me and he's like, right? Just like, okay, I'm the over-keen 45-year-old actor here. But that's probably the only thing I think I held back. I don't think I hid anything.
Yeah, I think it's more like playful and fun, because you don't do like one take where you're like, oh, and that's what he's gonna do. Like, you just do it over and over, and what's surprising is finding a new way into it each time, and that he would have like a new glint in his eyes, and sometimes it would be more menacing, and sometimes he'd pull that back and it would be pure charisma. So, it really threw us off.
Also, I think because it was having, such a fantastic cast of actors, and we were on location, so they were having lunch, and it was, because they're so in it and in the moment and hitting the tennis ball back and forward between each other all the time. It's almost, as a director, it's almost like a documentary. They're there and in the moment, and they're kind of riffing, and that actually developed from the script. Obviously there's the solid script, but that play and sort of always mining it. And that's the pleasure, I think, of something like this, where we can each go, oh, let's just lean a bit more there or lean a bit more there. Oh, that thing you did, let's dig into that. And so we were all riffing off each other in a fun way, but I think in a really productive way to improve the movie.
Yeah, it sounds like you're creating an environment where you could kind of find these moments as you go.
Because it's so micro-gestural and so, what's just unsaid and half said and in the eyes. And that's
and
the
how
pleasure.
can you justify that these people don't run at the first sort of awkward or like scary interaction? Like, how can you... I don't know, and James was so beautiful at that, at like pushing it to a place of like pure self-effacing, like humility, after being so sort of malevolent that you as a character you were like, I don't know where to trust.
Well, that aspect is incredibly important to your character, Louise McKenzie. What was it like, sort of having to play your character at this crossroads of knowing in her gut that there's something wrong at this place, but not quite knowing what to do about it?
I think, she's also in a relationship with her. She's a mother to this child that needs quite a bit of attention, and she's at like a really difficult place with her husband. So she's not just negotiating like safety and instinct and like being a guest. She's also trying to be like, a cool mom who's easy, and like a wife that's listening to her husband, that like that's what we talked about in therapy, to like not always steamroll him. And I'm a really assertive person, so I know what it's like to be like, don't just like steamroll people's I don't know. You have to stamp down your own instincts and interests in favor of the sort of social good. And I think she was doing that a lot of the time, which ended up being wrong for her safety and the safety of her family, but for the like sanctity of her marriage, the right sort of gesture of peace. So she was in a sticky situation.
Yeah, well, James, I want to talk a little bit about how this movie ends, which is not getting into any sort of spoilers at all, but I will say that there is a lot of it takes place on the farm. It's a very labyrinthine building. Can you talk a little bit about how you used that space to kind of create the tension in the third act there?
Well, I was very focused on wanting to shoot on location. It's good for me, and I think it's good for these guys. It's just when you're in a space, both the outside and the inside space, where you're confined and you can only put the camera in the corner, and look, these guys, they could do green screen, they could do anything. But when you're in that space, it just brings an extra energy, because you're feeding off where you are, you're feeding off the kind of confinement, the room, and all of that, and the sort of claustrophobia, and everybody's feeling it. And, it's got really low ceilings, it's got all these, it's kind of a crabby sort of space. So that actually informed a lot of the sort of claustrophobia of the drama, but also the farm itself. It's sort of the architecture of the farm. The top shot, very deliberately, when they arrive, you realize it's almost like they're entering this kind of almost prison yard. There's a sense of entrapment there. And it's kind of subtly trying to codify. Initially, when you arrive, you're kind of seeing, is this a charmingly shambolic, shabby English country place, or is it just shabby? So when they go upstairs and they pull back the sheets and, oh, it's dirty, and it's like, ugh. And it's, I think, again, tapping into those slightly, Americans generally, I think, are cleaner than Brits.
Oh, really?
And I don't know, or
maybe.
Like our homes or our hospitals or whatever. It's just, I don't know.
Hospitals, our morgues,
Or underwear.
So I don't know. It's that sense of, they're looking, and then they look. It's like with the sense of humor when they're looking at James, they're going, is this just quirky English humor when he's smiling and laughing, or
the conflict of cultures is just absolutely one of the things that makes this movie so tense at all times. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have to speak.
Unacceptable.
You guys.
More.
Thank you all so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Catch Speak No Evil when it hits theaters September 13th, and stick around here on IGN for more from San Diego Comic-Con.